What's up, everyone? Welcome to the very first episode, the pilot of the best, greatest television show that has yet to hit the air, that's gonna hit the air whenever this episode is released. That opening. No, if we do it different times, that's the editing,
right.
bro. What up, everyone? Welcome to the craziest, raunchiest daytime television show to ever exist, Toxic Reality. I'm Julian.
I'm Mag.
And let's get toxic. I should tell you guys, I have been really excited about this to the point that over the last 7 days, I dropped 20 pounds. Very toxic to drop that much weight, but that because I want to look great for you all. And next week, I plan to drop another 10.
I'm sorry for your loss.
We're living in a very toxic time, but I always like to look at the positive and find, the best way to deal with situations that are toxic. And, there's a lot of positive through toxicity, including being aware of toxicity so we can slowly remove it.
You can't get rid of a toxicity if you aren't aware of the toxicity existing.
And we're very aware of toxicity exists, including, let's just be honest, I think everyone's a bit toxic. I think, to toot our horns a little bit, I think we're less toxic than a lot of people, but I still think there's toxic things. Mag, what's toxic about you?
Well, we're all imperfect human beings. We all have toxic traits. Me personally, I have a lot of toxic traits. I generally treat people like heads if they act like heads.
Do you have any toxic stories to jump us off with?
Toxic stories. So I just started a new job, and there's this one guy that works on a second shift, and
what should we call him?
I think we're gonna refer to him as a name that it can't be like his real name because that would be bad.
He'll find out.
Yeah.
If you watch the show, watch the show.
I don't know. It was something about. I don't know. We'll call him Ron Jeremy.
Why?
Can we say Ron Jeremy? Because he is a copyrighted person, isn't he?
The copyright's fine. It's just he does. And I don't know if we can talk about a person who got canceled because of some Me Too behavior. But we'll have to network. But continue your story. RJ. Let's just call him to be safe.
RJ. So we'll call him RJ.
Why? And why, by the way?
Why will we call him RJ?
What is the reason that Ron Jeremy came to mind for him?
Well, he looks like Ron Jeremy.
Ron Jeremy looking bloke. Okay.
And he probably didn't mean anything of it. But he decided to say that, he was upset that his trash can was overflowing, and I'm the janitor.
Wait, back. What are you in this scenario?
I am a janitor. I empty trash. I take out the trash, and I clean the floors.
Like what Matt Damon did in Good Will Hunting. Continue.
And I do a lot of other things, too. But that's not the point.
Like Matt Damon. Continue.
But that's not the point. I'm starting to think, I don't know if I should air this story out.
Which brings us to our very first sponsor, which I would like to personally thank, since right now we currently have one sponsor. If you would like to sponsor us, please email us at this link. We have not yet created that email, but by the time that this airs, it will be created. So drop us a line there. But our first sponsor goes to Montague Television for being so grateful to connect us with great cameras, great editing equipment, and microphones. For how much? For free, because that's what sponsors are supposed to do, unless they're AA sponsors, and then it's a whole different game because they're giving their time to you to make sure you don't relapse on whatever you're getting sponsored from. But we're not talking about that sponsor. Want to shoot something, edit something? MCTV. I do actually want to call the TV network to find out if the word is allowed or not.
Well, thank you for
MCTV.
Thank you.
He has not yet sponsored us.
Thank you, MCTV.
Thank you, MCTV. So I'm just going to quickly call the network just to make sure. I don't want to get in trouble with our, this is the first episode. Really don't want it to get canceled because of misunderstanding what's allowed and what's not allowed. So we're going to give them a quick call. Gotta tell you, even though I have an Android, it's slow as I don't think I want the other type of phone, so. What's the other phone? Apple. Well, we will have to check back in on that later. I got a question for you. I've been analyzing a lot. As a overthinker myself, whether it's because I'm a Libra or just because I'm an overthinker, I was overthinking about conspiracies versus realities. Subway bread, is it a conspiracy or is it a reality?
I don't know. I've heard conspiracies about Subway bread, and I don't know if they're true or not.
Well, they say that Subway bread's not even legally allowed to be called bread due to the amount of sugar that's in it.
I've heard that they were made out of yoga mats.
That might be a conspiracy. Where I think the reality is that has a lot of sugar. So if you're trying to diet, first of all, gluten's not a good thing to put in the body. But secondly, Subway gluten that's mostly sugar is definitely not good to put on the body. Reality.
That brings us to our next segment. That.
Alright, Mag, what do you feel that needs to be that?
I think the war for anything that's not defending your own land should be that. If you're invading another country or destroying another country, that.
Did you know that if you're a human, you need water or you will die? Because humans are like 80 to 90% water. I drink a lot of water. My urologist says I'm like one of the few people that drinks too much water. But I said him and I fired him and I have not seen him for months since. That I love water.
I was on YouTube one time and I was listening to some music, because that's what I generally stream on YouTube, is music to listen to, because I don't use Pandora. I like to listen to the song I want to listen to, so I search it up on YouTube and I listen to it. But then immediately after the song that took me out of my mental funk was some kind of ad for depression. And it's like, and then let's talk about your depression, is how the article started out. And it's like, well, that was gone a minute ago because I listened to the favorite tune that I needed to hear to deal with that problem. But now you got me dwelling on it again. I thought that was pretty toxic.
That's a fascinating point, that an advertisement to remove depression is toxic because it makes you remind yourself that you might be depressed. Wow. Actually, that's interesting. So what are some trending things so we can figure out if they're toxic or not toxic? Like, what's a trending topic?
Well, right now, a lot of people are talking about Chris Rock right now. I know that.
Did you see his bit? Did you see the Chris Rock bit about Will Smith? What do you call Will Smith a for? Why? Why? Because he made a good point that Chris Rock is like, first of all, apparently Chris Rock called Will when Jada saying her name wrong, but that's all right. When Jada hooked up with her son's friend, which I will say that's toxic. It's fine to have a polyamorous relationship if both people are not hurt by it. Clearly Will was hurt by it, but it's toxic in my opinion to hook up with your son's friend. Like, that must be so weird. Just think, like, first of all, that would make me not want to bring friends around. If, like, just imagine if you were Jada's, any of their children, and you brought a friend around, and oh man, it's like, I understand why the friend would do it, and like, I don't think I'd be mad at my friend for being like, yeah, I get why you my mom from the Matrix. I get that she's hot. Probably would not think my mom's hot if I was Jada's kids, but I still think it's kind of toxic to do that, especially when your husband's Will Smith, which, fine to have a polyamorous relationship, but I mean, Will clearly will do anything for Jada. Unless that's why Jada wanted to hook up with the son, because she doesn't want a man that will do anything for her. Which Will, if you would have not slept Chris Rock, you might have had a better situation with you and Jada, because you wouldn't just bend over backwards for her. And Chris Rock made a good point that the move was that he slapped a person he knew he could beat up.
Yeah, that was toxic. I mean, you think it... I mean, I know Chris Rock waited a whole year to come out and do a response and even mention that in public, and he did it in Jada's hometown, in Baltimore.
What I'm trying to figure out is jokes. Because jokes, in their nature, can be toxic, right? You self-deprecate, that's self-toxic. You make fun of someone else, that's also toxic. But jokes are to help relieve toxicity from anyone that's pent up and stressed. So it's like, what percentage... I think it depends on the joke.
And I feel like most jokes are like supposed to make somebody in that situation not get offended, but to make them laugh about it and to feel better about the situation. Just to at least have some kind of... I mean, there's no boundaries in comedy. I mean, I get it. Some of it's very like brutal and, you know what I mean? Sometimes it can be pretty pretty rough, especially if you're in the situation where you're feeling self-conscious about something. But if you take a couple steps back and just kind of look and laugh at it, I guess if you're really upset about it, maybe the toxic is too much for you. And you are, I don't know.
I got a challenge. Tell me a non-toxic joke.
A non-toxic joke.
0% toxic. But it has to be funny, otherwise it's not a joke.
Okay. What do you call a black man that flies a plane?
A pilot?
Yeah, a pilot. You racist.
I don't get the how am I racist by calling a black man that drives that flies a plane a pilot? What are you supposed to?
Well, that was the joke. You got the punchline, but you didn't get the whole punchline. The answer was a pilot. You racist. Because because the joke is, what do you call a black man that flies a plane?
Okay, try again. Give me again.
So it's like, what do you call a black man that flies a plane?
A pilot, you racist.
Yeah, that's the punchline, but I'm supposed to say the punchline.
Let's try it again.
What do you call a black man that flies a plane?
What?
A pilot, you racist.
Gotcha. All right, now tell a funny non-toxic joke.
What do you call a deer with no eyes?
That's already offensive to deers with no eyes, but what?
No idea.
So I think that's a little bit funnier, but now that's at least 10% toxic, because what about blind deer?
Okay, well then what if you find a deer with no eyes and no legs?
Dude, that's a dead deer. That's really offensive.
No, it's still no idea.
Oh my God.
So what if you find a deer with no eyes, no legs, and no...
Still no idea?
Still no idea.
Huh.
Still no idea.
Which brings us to our next segment. When have you been stabbed? Fact. When I was in 9th grade, I was at this really school. Let's just call it Amherst High School in Amherst, Massachusetts. And one of the really things, and toxic, let's just call it for what it was. A toxic behavior was one day, first of all, it was very toxic that just because I like to, entertain and be entertained and not settle down in one spot, they put me in this special study group, which is first of all, no offense to the other people, but it's there was a lot of distractions. So as somebody that likes entertainment, I feel like putting me in an isolated room with people that are toxically entertaining, whether they mean to or not, just distracts me from my work. Side note, point though, so this one study hall, which by the way, one day I got really bored and jumped out the window, which was a very funny reaction from the teacher, because the window outside, it looked like it was 3 stories. I checked, I'm not suicidal, but it looked 3 stories and it wasn't. It was 1.5, which I was fine, but it was hilarious to me, not to the teacher, and to the other students, which was a give back for all the times they entertained me. But sidetrack. Anyways, one day, fact, this is a true story, a kid, which I don't even want to blame him for being toxic. Well, it was toxic, but it could have been an accident. Don't know. This one kid, he had a pencil, and he stabbed me in the knee, which I don't... Again, let's just say it's an accident, then I would give that only... he's just really bad at his eye-hand coordination and moving pencils. But otherwise, if it was on purpose, I don't know what I did to deserve that. Maybe I was being toxic, but it's still toxic to stab anyone with anything. But what was really toxic was the fact that the principal... You know what? Let's just call this person Mark. Mark, piece of literally walks by the room, and the principal, not the vice principal, not a substitute principal, the principal of the entire Amherst High School at the time, different principal now, don't know because I don't go to that school, but walked by while this kid stabbed me in the knee with the pencil. And what did he do? Did he stop? Did he come to intervene? Did he do his job? Did he feel bad for this kid that just got stabbed in front of him? No, he just shook his head and walked by. That to me is even more toxic than somebody stabbing me, purposeful or not purposeful, when they were a child. Not giving children to out for stabbing, but it's like, yo, that kid was like 9th grade, you're like 14, 15. If you skipped a grade, you're 13. You went back a grade, you're 16. But point being is, if you're an adult, where Mark definitely was not trying to be ageist, but between 40 to 50, unless he really is bad with diet and is much younger, he looked older, not trying to be ageist, but he literally shook his head. Rude, toxic, not rude, toxic. Luckily he's gone. That man. Not literally does not deserve it, which is probably why he was toxic, because I don't think he got much. Can you say on daytime TV?
I don't know if you can say on daytime TV.
We could say I laid down.
Yeah, but if you said I laid them down next to me, or I laid them down by the... Yeah, you could say that.
But what if you mean like I laid them down because you killed them?
Or I laid them to rest.
That sounds peaceful, then it's probably allowed. But first of all, I was just trying to make a point that this person clearly had some toxic and like something going on to allow a kid to stab another kid. That was wrong of him. Toxic.
So there was one time, I worked in Florida, I worked in landscaping, and there was some very toxic behavior involved with this one guy. I'll refer to him as Dane. His name was Dane. Now Dane was kind of an asshole. He'd always brag about toxic things like beating his stepkids for eating too much food. Putting locks on the refrigerator so his kids can't eat any more food. He would brag about things like that. This guy was a real piece of shit. Anyway, very toxic person. Very, very, very toxic. This man, this was like, we had closed top trailers where there was like, you could fit 4 massive John Deere diesel powered lawnmowers. And they got really warm, especially in Florida sun, and it got really warm in a closed space as it would any closed car or anything kind of confined space in the sun in Florida in 100-degree weather or whatever it was. Very hot. He decided he was going to lock me in the back of that trailer with all those mowers after they were running for 6 hours.
That's toxic and dangerous.
In Florida heat. Very toxic.
Very dangerous.
So apparently what he did was actually a crime because that was endangering my life. So
illegal.
In Florida, I didn't know this because I had just moved from, the good old state of Massachusetts where, self-defense laws are a lot different than they are in Florida. I could have stood my ground there and I could have actually killed him because he put my life in danger.
Legally?
Legally, from what people were saying. They said I could have got out. They said if I came out of that trailer swinging on that man, I would have been 100% in the right and I would have not gotten in trouble from the police. However, I did not get him back that way. I got him back in another demonic, toxic way.
What'd you do?
So he was, he had these little Gatorade bottles that he left on his lawnmower, and I a little bit inside inside of his Gatorade bottle. And then when he came to the next stop, I watched him drink it, and he didn't even know that I in it.
What was the craziest toxic thing that happened in Florida?
Oh, man. Well, it depends on what kind of toxic you mean. I mean, I knew this one guy. I'll refer to him as Jim for this segment. He was a real kind of street guy, but he wasn't a very bright street guy. And
was it because of the toxic education system?
You know how you like watch a movie and in some movies there's always that one guy that always gets hurt, like in every single scene he's in, kind of thing. That's kind of how this guy was. Every time you see him, he had something else wrong with him. He got run over by a car. He got burnt. He got gonorrhea. I ran over his foot one time in my car.
That's toxic.
Well, it was an accident. I mean, I just started driving and he made a funny face.
And that justifies you running him over?
Well, I mean, it was an accident. I didn't do it on purpose. I mean,
Okay.
It wasn't like I repeatedly backed it over his foot or anything. I just kind of drove.
Just a one time?
One and done, you know.
On to our next segment. Let's call Palumbo.
Hello?
Hey, yo!
Hey,
Palumbo!
what up?
What up?
Nothing. Well, let me call you guys back in like a half an hour.
No, you can't call us back in a half an hour. We're doing a live show.
Well, I can't right now. I'm busy. I'll call you back in a half an hour. I'm seriously in the middle of something very important.
What are you doing?
But yeah,
What is it? What are you doing?
I'm talking to the police right now about my storage unit.
Okay, that is very important. It would be toxic of us to continue this conversation.
Yes, it would be.
How much time do you think you spend on the phone a day?
That is one of my toxic traits. That is one of my very, very acknowledged. I've actually had it pointed out that my addiction to my phone was very, very, very visible to a lot of other people by an ex girlfriend. She would always tell me I was on my phone too much, and I never really thought about it until she started saying something that I was doing it too much, which was actually really, really blew my mind. Of just acknowledge that I was like, wow, I've spent 3 hours on my phone today. It's like, that's 3 hours. That's a big deal. That's like, well,
That's an eighth of your day.
Exactly. There's 24 hours in a day. If I spend 3 hours a day on my phone, there's a problem there.
I agree. I'm definitely addicted to media, which is why, as someone that I've decided to embrace that addiction, because I have a very addictive personality, so I try to pick and choose, and I want to monetize that addiction, which I already do. But one thing I will say for anyone monetizing or not monetizing their media addiction, here's an idea to make something that can be toxic, like you just said, maybe less toxic. What about be on your phone while you're on like a stationary bike? Don't be on your phone while you're on a regular bike, because that could cause accidents, which is very toxic. But I'm thinking like on a stationary bike at the gym, because I do this. That's usually when I'm, on my phone BSing. But I do that a lot when I'm not on the exercise bike. But I'm really addicted to media.
I like to be on my phone while I take a If I'm pretty much naked without my phone on the toilet. I mean, I have taken without my phone, but for the most part, I'd say 99% of the that I take, I am on my phone. So if I'm talking to you on social media, there's a good chance I am taking a and I have no shame in saying that, because I quite often.
What's the evolution purposes of hairy nipples?
I don't know. I think I actually heard nipple hair is a disease one time. I don't know.
What?
I don't know. I don't know exactly.
Now, I just want to be clear. Are we talking about like that's like around or on the nipple?
I don't know, man. Like,
you just got me really freaked
my
out.
nipple's pretty hairy, man.
You're right. The rest of your stomach is not hairy. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't really.
that cannot be a disease. That's some
I
bull.
mean, I got this here, but I used to burn my nipple hair off.
I got them plucked out for a stunt that really was not a good visual stunt, so I did not ever air that.
So now for our next bit, marry or blank.
What's blank?
Well, we have to fill that in. What should blank be today? If you have suggestions for the next blank, let us know.
Or email, yeah.
Email us the next
or
blank.
comment, depending on where you're watching this. How about eating Cinnabons with?
Okay.
So marry or eat Cinnabons with?
Okay. Do we have to pick three people?
Yeah, but to avoid toxicity, let's probably pick 3 dead people so we can't offend.
Okay. Well, then we're gonna dead people?
You're right, that's offensive, because that's necrophiliac, which is definitely offensive. So let's say to live people but that's toxic. You know what? That's alright. We're gonna give it a shot anyway. We're gonna preference this bit, which there is a bit of toxicity.
Well, this is a toxic reality.
True. Alright, so toxic reality. So marry or eat Cinnabons with.
Okay. So who are our candidates? And they have to be...
I got one, ready?
Okay.
For you, ready? Barbara Bush, Man, that was my fear strong. No, I got it, right? Barbara Bush, Tommy Lee Jones. No. My apologies, Tommy Lee. I always get you and Tommy Lee. Let me try this again. Ready? Barbara Bush, Tommy Lee, or any of the cast of Jersey Shore.
Any of the cast of Jersey Shore. The only person I know from Jersey Shore is Snooki.
All right, so Snooki.
So
Barbara Bush, Tommy Lee, Snooki.
all right.
Marry, eat Cinnabons with.
So I'd marry Tommy Lee.
All right.
I'd probably.
Barbara Bush.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about it. I think I'm gonna. I don't know if I want that Snooki. Ugh. Yeah, I'm gonna Barbara Bush and
Good choice.
but I don't really want to marry Snooki either.
No, you're marrying Tommy Lee.
Oh yeah, I'm eating Cinnabons with Snooki. I'll eat Cinnabons with Snooki.
I think I could see that. All right. Who are my three?
You get.
Yo, Snooki would definitely be fun to eat Cinnabons with. I feel like that would be the perfect.
That would be
activity.
that would be like the perfect activity for me to want to meet her. I wouldn't really want to like.
I feel you.
I mean, I don't know. I really would want to get married to anyone. That's why I picked Tommy Lee. He's got more money. I mean, I wouldn't have to have with him. We're just married.
So I feel like that's double toxic that you're A, not putting out, and B, just using him for the money.
Yeah.
All right, so who are my three?
So, okay. So you said Barbara Bush, so I'm going to say Hillary Clinton.
All right.
You said Tommy Lee, so I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with Eddie Van Halen,
All right.
but just because. Wait,
All right.
is he...
I didn't mean to sound naive, but I was about to ask the same question, which would definitely change.
I think he is dead.
So maybe don't use him.
Okay, so
Only living.
you got Hillary Clinton,
Yep.
Drew Barrymore,
Ooh.
and Tom Brady.
Ooh, all right. So I would definitely respectfully marry Tom Brady, and just like you, no disrespect, Tom, but I'm not sexually into men, so I wouldn't be pleasing you, but I'd be a great friend and companion who would be obviously just using you for your money. I would definitely eat Cinnabons. What, you said Hillary, or who was the other one?
Drew Barrymore.
Drew Barrymore. So I would marry Tom Brady, Drew Barrymore, and eat Cinnabons with Hillary Clinton.
So that's like Homer Simpson, man.
I was just fantasizing about cheesecake and Cinnabons. Like, what if they merged? What about like a cheesecake? What about a Cinnabon cheesecake? And now for our next toxic bit called TMI. TMI, did you know that recently I've been doing yoga? That's not toxic, but I'm very appreciative that I've been doing yoga, and I feel like I'm at the point, I don't know if I can air this on daytime TV, but I'm at the point that I have this ability that I had when I was much younger, which is I can maneuver my body to, if I wanted to, my own.
Too much information. So, I have very large testicles.
Too much information. Do you think if you did enough yoga, you could your own balls?
I don't know, because sometimes when I like lay down a certain way, my balls go up into my body. And I have to kind of like do this awkward step to make them plop back down into my ball, back into my satchel.
And that brings us to the end of today's show. Join us next week on Toxic Reality, where we talk about reality that is toxic. I'm Julian.
And I'm Mag.
And y'all have a blessed, wonderful, amazing day.
steaming pile of hot dog